everyone. Welcome to the American Sports Connection. I'm your host, the one and only Joey Railroads. I'm here with my good buddy Adam. Adam, how's it going?
It's going pretty good now that we finally got connected.
Oh my God. Gotta love Skype acting all weird today.
Updates are always bad. Why is that? Why are updates always problems?
Well, it was
But
weird
updates
because
supposed to be improvements.
yeah, well, it updated and it literally sent me, like, when I would double click on Skype, it would send me straight to, like, a little Microsoft link of it. And I kept putting in the same, like, account over and over, and I knew that was it. So, and it kept telling me that wasn't it, so I just eventually went on Skype's site and asked to, like, re-download, like, the classic version, as they call it.
Oh, God.
Yeah, so I did that, and then it was fine after that.
Well, the classics, I actually like the classic better than the newer version, because
Yes.
the newer version's got that, like, really psychedelic, like, dark light color scheme, and I don't know, it just got, like, all this stuff in it. Like, you can't tell what you're looking at. You can't tell what anything is. It's weird. I don't like the new Skype layout at all.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. It sucks. But
yeah, so
before we get into the games this week, we got a lot of football news because we've been away for a little while. You've been under the weather and, you know, all that jazz.
Mm-hmm.
As you would call it, the coaching carousel.
A lot of stuff going on with that.
I know you're excited because, unless you've been living under a rock, John Gruden is coming out of, I guess you would say, exile to coach the Raiders again.
I know I'm hyped because it's kind of like almost like it's like a decade and a half to 2 decades of mythos like coming full circle, you know. So it's kind of like it had to happen for the story to close one way or the other.
Yeah.
And I know they've been courting him, and I think it's just something that had to happen. So yeah, I'm thrilled about it. It feels like unfinished business too. I still think he wants to win with them.
Yeah,
and I think that the organization was always special to him. So
yeah, they brought in as their offensive coordinator the one guy from the Rams. I forget his name.
Well, didn't they bring in Greg Olson, not the tight end, but
let me double check.
I thought they were bringing in Olson and Gunther Cunningham.
I know Gunther's running the offense or the defense. Excuse me.
Yeah, I know they were looking at Greg Olson, who I thought isn't he Jacksonville's offensive coordinator? Or is he with the Rams?
Yeah, Greg Olson. He was with the Rams this past year.
Okay,
I believe.
Since he's a guy that's. Those are both guys that Gruden's familiar with, so it's fine. Those are both fine with me.
Yeah. And then you just brought this up. I completely forgot about it. The Carolina fired their offensive coordinator. Who was their offensive coordinator?
Mike Shula.
Thank you. And they hired Norv Turner. And now Norv Turner's son, I believe you told me, is going to be the quarterback's coach.
Yeah, and they fired Ken Dorsey, the former. He was famously quarterback for one of the, I think, Miami. It was Miami's University of Miami. Yeah, he was, of course. So they fired him, and Mike Shula. I don't know. He's gotten a lot of sort of. There's been a lot of back padding done for him over the last several years. And there's been a lot of, okay, well, why hasn't he gotten a head coaching offer? Now, all of a sudden, it kind of slammed into a brick wall. So I don't know where he's going to go from here. Yeah, and, we kind of talked about Cam, like, where he was sort of at this, we talked about him a lot at the beginning of the year, how we felt he was kind of like at this crossroads. And if he didn't kind of like get back on track, I guess meaning into the playoffs realm, what would happen with him? And so obviously somebody in the organization feels like they're not getting enough out of him and out of that offense, which is probably arguably true.
And then Seattle had a big shakeup. They let both of their offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator go.
And their offensive line coach too, I think.
Yeah, Tom Cable.
Yes.
Your favorite guy.
Yeah, one of your favorite Metallica reference of mine. You cable me, I cable you.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's a huge, all that over no running game.
Well, this is the thing.
I guess it's a change in philosophy they're looking for.
Well, their running game, or not so much their running game, their offensive line has been the worst in the last 2 or 3 years under him.
Ever since Unger and the other big guy that they had went away, they just haven't been able to put it back together. And not just not put it back together, but not even make it operational. It's just been a complete debacle, and that's not acceptable for a team that expects to be competing for championships, year in and year out.
All right, real quick before we keep going with the rest of this list, Dean says he will be going to the Raiders game in London this year, coming up.
That's great. I wish I could join you, and I know it'll be a lot of fun, and I'm sure that the Raiders fans will come out there and be very colorful, and that's great to hear.
You will appreciate this one. Lance says, "Don't use a Metallica reference. Lars will try and sue you." It's funny, but it's true.
It's too late.
Yeah,
I've been throwing it around for a couple of years now, so
yeah.
That's whatever action was to be taken probably should have been taken by now.
All right, staying out west, we had your favorite guys. We call him Mr. Magoo. Bruce Arians retires along with Carson Palmer.
Mr. Hypertension. Yeah, well, he always looked like he was about to stroke out anyway, but...
Oh, he really did. He looked like he was going to have a stroke on the sideline.
He always looked really, like his blood pressure was like 200 over 199.
Yeah.
But his health problems are serious, though. So now, all kidding aside, it's probably the best for him, and wish him the best in moving on, and don't know if he'll end up in the realm of commentary or anything like that. He might have some interesting things to say from a commentary standpoint.
'Cause he seems like he would have interesting things to say.
You would think so, but I've been disappointed by that before. But yeah, you would kind of think, because he's had a good offensive. He's an offensive guy, I believe, and he's had some interesting journeys in his offensive career, and certainly I think I would just have liked to have been a fly on the wall. Some of those arguments he's had with Carson Palmer, just hearing him come clean about some of those shouting matches alone would be entertaining. But I would think and
it makes you wonder what Larry Fitzgerald's going to do.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's not a whole lot left there on the offensive side of the ball now. It's kind of like they have to sort of just completely overhaul that. I guess that Johnson kid that I really like will come back, I suppose.
Right, but
there's a quarterback, and
they don't really have a quarterback.
Right. So
Drew Stanton's not gonna be your saving grace.
Nobody would be mad at Fitzy for going and looking for a contender to try and. That to me. See, I wouldn't categorize that as looking for a cheap ring.
Not at all, because he's been there his entire career. I wouldn't fault the guy Kind of like Junior Seau did at the end of his career.
Right. I mean, the guy's loyal, and he's one of the all-time best players, and he deserves to kind of look around the league and pick out a situation that he's comfortable with and gives him a chance to hope. By the way, hopefully it won't be those guys. I wish you hadn't even mentioned Junior Seau, because hopefully it won't be them. But
yeah, I don't even want to go there.
Yeah.
I agree, Lance. He said Arizona owes it to Fitzgerald to find him one more chance to get a ring.
Well, that just might be by letting him walk.
Yeah, that might be the best, service they could give him.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the intent of your words, yeah, then that's probably, that would probably kind of be like their lifetime achievement award. It's like, thanks for all the years of service. Now go free. And
like, reminds me when Ray Bourque won the cup with the Avalanche, and the Bruins fans celebrated like they won the cup.
There you go. Absolutely.
That's the one I always remember vividly. The other team that had a major overhaul, which is kind of telling their head coach to get his head out of his ass, is the Packers.
Yeah, how about that? Well, hold on one second here. I'm just trying to get something to pop up here.
Right, because they let go of, I know Dom Capers was let go, and then their GM, Ted Thompson, he went into a different, position in their higher up, like the front office.
Right, in the organization, but not GM anymore.
Yeah, because they let someone that was already in their front office take their GM spot. I think it was Ed Wolf, actually.
I think it is Wolf. But this is the weird thing that Green Bay did. And I don't know if the guys, listening in, how they feel about this, but it's kind of like they sort of chopped down everybody around McCarthy, and we're kind of like, okay, it's everybody around you, but it's not you. And I appreciate that McCarthy has gotten them into the playoffs so many times when they probably were not a very good team other than Aaron Rodgers. And I do appreciate that. But I mean, is it really fair to say that? And it's like, as much as I've kind of defended McCarthy in the past, now that they've done this big hatchet job on the entire staff, I almost kind of feel bad for my position now. I almost want to second guess my position. I always kind of feel like, well, how can you say it's all those guys, but not their boss?
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Because at the end of the day, they all directly report to him, minus the GM.
He's their CEO in the locker room / office / practice playing field area. Mm-hmm. He's the guy overseeing all of them. So,
and let's face it, I mean, obviously your team is going to change when Aaron Rodgers isn't there, but if you're a really good coach, you're going to find a way to win without him.
Yeah, and
I just didn't see it. I saw his team just, I don't want to say they quit, but it was just they had no fight in them.
They didn't quit. I don't think they quit. They didn't play well. I mean, quitting, that would sort of be a different sort of problem to be solved.
Yeah.
Like the effort thing. But the fact that they just were not prepared and that they played so poorly in games that they clearly had an opportunity to win, like that horrific home shutout loss against Baltimore. What was that, 14-0 or something?
And then they almost had to go to overtime with Cleveland.
Yeah, and every time they played at home, this Hundley kid, he was overwhelmed. It almost seemed like he was overwhelmed by the aura of playing a Packers home game, and it's like, that's not getting your young quarterback prepared. That's
not at all.
So I didn't feel like there was very much happening, schematically to really adjust things, and the kid was kind of out there running around. Sometimes he would use his legs and make a good play, but it never really seemed like it was by design. It just kind of seemed like he would occasionally make an athletic schoolyard play, but I didn't really feel like they were doing much to. I mean, there are some issues there, obviously personnel wise, that have to be. I think they need a good young tight end, a keeper tight end. I think that offense is one of those offenses you just have to have a good young, like 90 catch tight end type of deal. I think would benefit that situation greatly. Offensive line's been a mess ever since.
Dean is saying in the chat, he said, how about that celebration by the Browns?
Oh, the parade.
Yeah.
The 0-16 parade. I mean, I kind of get a kick out of the ironic cheekiness of it. I really do, but I don't think it's a very good press. I guess my immediate emotional reaction was kind of like, haha, that's funny.
And then it's like, haha, that's sad.
Upon further review, to borrow an NFL phrase that gets used way too much, I kind of felt like, I didn't care for the sentiment too much.
No, I agree. All right, since we're talking about the Packers, we might as well go to their division rivals with them hiring the Bears hiring another one of Andy Reid's disciples.
Who's this again?
The Bears.
Oh yeah, the guy a guy from Kansas City,
Nagy?
Right? Yes. I was kind of like a little bewildered. I don't see him as a Bears kind of guy at all.
The interesting thing is, by and large, usually Andy Reid's coordinators are better head coaches than he is.
That much is true.
But that's not saying much.
That's not really going too far into, qualified territory either. But yeah, I think that's definitely a wait and see kind of thing. I don't know. Upon reading the article, it didn't strike me as but maybe the Bears need to find the right guy that's not a classic Bears guy. The Bears I don't know what the answer is in Chicago right now.
They need offensive help. That's what they need.
Yeah, right. I'm just saying.
But I know what you mean from a culture standpoint.
Like the failures over the last decade, like you have Trestman came in, and you think, okay, well, this is a new wrinkle. They have this offensive Sven Gali is going to come in and turn them into, and that failed. And of course, that could just be more because Trestman is more of a coordinator than he is a head coach. That could be.
Yeah.
And then you have Fox, which you would think would be a classic Bears kind of, and he wins 10 games in 3 seasons or whatever. That just took forever to get together, and I don't blame him.
Well, he seemed disinterested.
Yeah, I don't know what was going on there. He may not be happy with organizational stuff too. I mean, and he's not a spring chicken anymore, so he just might be like, the hell with this. I'll take the Wade Phillips path and go be a coordinator on a really good team somewhere. So I don't know what the answer there is in Chicago, but I really hope, for the sake of some of the good young talent that they do have there, that they can get something together. So, maybe this Nagy is, just kind of turning the thing on its ear and trying something unexpected is what they need. I really don't know. That's a total wait and see for me. I couldn't give you a prediction on how that's going to pan out.
Right, I agree with you. And then we talk about the other guys in the North. Finally, Jim Caldwell gets the axe by the Lions.
I just think too many boneheaded.
And what do you always call him to me?
What do I call him?
The quarterback whisperer.
Do I call him that?
Remember, because you said he was always the guy that got by with, "Hey, I was Peyton Manning's quarterback coach."
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, well, right. It was kind of like, if you're a Simpsons fan and you know the whole thing with Principal Skinner, how he lived with his mother, and then like when somebody teased him about it, he would say, "Hey, she lives with me."
Yeah, exactly.
And it was kind of like I could see somebody like teasing Jim Caldwell and saying, "Hey, you used to work with Peyton Manning," and him like getting all like teary eyed and saying, "Hey, he worked with me." So that was kind of the thing with Caldwell, is he just kind of rode that Peyton Manning association to, and it was like, really, how much did Peyton Manning, he was
how
like
much juice is left in the thing
how much
to
did Peyton Manning
out?
really? Yeah, I mean, would Peyton Manning even have noticed if you didn't show up? I mean, his brain would have just opened up and swallowed up another person. It wouldn't have mattered. maybe I'm being dismissive. Maybe he had a good influence on it, but I just always kind of felt like he rode that. From there to Baltimore, I think he went to the Ravens for a while. And then this head coaching up in Detroit, of all places. Why do these guys choose Detroit as their first head coaching job? I'll never understand it.
I know, and like a lot of teams complain about their teams. Go to the Lions. That's like, them and like the Jets are where like, you go to die.
But they're so frustrating because, like for example, they had like Barry Sanders for so long, and now they've had
Megatron.
Now they had Megatron. Now they've had Matthew Stafford. Whatever you think of Matthew Stafford is good enough quarterback to get you to like the second round of playoffs every other year. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like he's a playoff level. He's good. He's good enough. And it's just like, it's one thing if like you just keep like drafting the wrong guys and all this other crazy stuff. I mean, that's kind of like, that's frustrating, but it's a different. But when you have the talent there, and believe me speaking as a Raiders fan, when you have the talent is right there, and you just keep screwing it up, it's like, it's
so incredibly frustrating.
It is, and so the line, I don't, what the heck, and so I was really, even though I know the GM is from New England, I was surprised when, what's his name, Wooly Willie decided to go there of all places.
I know, that's like the rumor, but now it's like it could be the Giants now, so I don't know.
Oh, is that okay? So it's not as
official as it once
close
was
to being final as we thought. Oh, okay.
And I'm referring to Matt Patricia, the defensive coordinator for New England. It was rumored that he was going to definitively go to the Lions, and now it's kind of up in the air. He might go there. He might go to the Giants.
Well, there have been rumors about both him and Josh McDaniel because of the New England connection with the GM there.
Yes.
So I guess it could still be either one, which I would personally love. Just dismantle that whole tree.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you mentioned that because we're going to talk about your favorite team to hate, because Dean messaged me about this week after the show, and he said, I finally found someone that hates them more than me.
Oh?
And he goes, the Bengals. He said, because the Bengals found a way to fuck it up.
When you told me that the Bengals, I'm still not 100% sure you're not pulling my leg. They really, I mean, this is not just a big internet scam at my expense. They really did bring Marvin Lewis back
for 2 years.
I'm just making sure.
Yeah.
If you listeners out there,
sure
if you're in on the joke, don't be cruel. Just let me know this is all a big gag, because I just can't believe it. It's
yeah. He's coming back. I was like, and I'll tell you this: my buddy Dan that came here this past summer, when I messaged him, I said, because he's a big Bengals fan, I said, Dan, I'm so sorry. He's like, I can't watch him no more. I can't support him no more.
Now that I totally understand. I totally understand that.
Like, he's just super, like, frustrated.
They're a sickening organization to deal with. And the funny thing about the Bengals is how when the two games that really mattered when they were still in it, and those two games where they got their clocks absolutely cleaned. You remember that, Joey?
Yeah.
Where they got absolutely like a combined like 70-12. Those two games when they were still in the hunt, or whatever you want to call it, and they got sandblasted off the face of the earth. Then, it's been announced that Marvin Lewis won't be coming back. Then everybody starts getting all teary-eyed. Then they win two, I mean, granted, the game at the end against the Ravens knocked the Ravens out, but it wasn't going to do anything to save the Bengals season. So what I ultimately call meaningless games for them, for their season, then they come back and win two meaningless games for their season, and that somehow fixes it. Classic Bengals thinking.
Yeah, well, I got two things for you after that. You will enjoy this one. Lance says the first game, Ashton Kutcher is going to jump out and say, "Cincinnati, you've been punked."
It is like one big elongated, sick practical joke. It really is.
Dude, that is hysterical.
Here's another theory I'm developing. Just think about this for a minute. Cincinnati, Cleveland, both in Ohio. Huge tire fires, toxic smoke. Could there be a connection? I just want everybody to just think about it. Think about the repercussions of breathing in that burning rubber.
Yeah, I had forgot to mention this earlier because Lance had said it when we were talking about the Browns. He said it looks like Johnny Manziel is going to play for the Hamilton Tiger Cats next year. It's not 100% confirmed, but they traded their two top quarterbacks, so you do the math.
How about that? Well, I guess, let's see. The field in Canadian football is wider, right?
Yes.
It's a wider field, so it's that much longer for him to run to, like, get to the Gatorade table to do a line of Coke, so we'll see if he's got it in him. I don't know.
Ouch.
Yeah, I know. I'm a monster.
You're out of control.
Yeah, I'm out of control.
No, it's 20 yards wider.
It is, yeah. But no, sometimes those mobile guys, they can, sometimes those scatty, mobile, smaller guys can go to that game and that kind of field, and they can excel.
Lance is saying that it's wider and longer. The end zones are 35 yards and the field is 110.
And isn't there something different with the downs too?
I'm not sure about that.
I thought there was something different about the downs as well. But at any rate, yeah, it's fine. Hey, for him right now, it's just about his life.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not even, football.
Oh, yeah, you're right. It's only 3 downs.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So, like, I think they go for it a little bit more, Lance, than they do. And
I think you're right.
Yes, they go for it a little bit more. They throw more, I guess. That's from what I understand.
Yeah.
But
the last one I wanted to touch on that I just remembered before we get into the wild card weekend was Pagano got the axe in Indy.
Yeah, that was overdue. I mean, not to be cruel, but we kind of talked before about why we thought that had been kind of drawn out. It was like a sympathy play.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Lance said when you asked about the throwing and stuff, he says, "I don't know. I don't watch it. It fucking sucks." Tell me how you really feel, Lance.
Fair enough.
That's
funny. When you think about it, I mean, if a quarterback who struggles throwing in the U.S. game goes somewhere where presumably you might be throwing more on a wider field, that's not necessarily going to help him. But
not at all.
Some guys have gone there and done well. I don't know. We'll see. But right now, I think it's just about him going somewhere and getting stability, and not,
becoming a friggin' head case.
Yeah, and end up being on one of those 40-minute AJ Benza documentaries.
Ouch.
So yeah, you just don't want it to end tragically. That's the bottom line.
No, I
Just
agree with you.
you just kind of want him to get like a steady thing going, a steady gig, and just kind of get things cleaned up. And so that's what it takes. That's fine.
No, I agree with you. I completely agree. All right, before we get into Wildcard Weekend, don't forget to check out our sponsors over at the Squared Circle publication. You can find them on Twitter at TSC Wrestling Mag. Use promo code ASCPOD and you can get 20% off your order. All right, let's get it going here. I laugh every time I look at this score. The opening game on Wild Card Weekend, we have the Tennessee Titans coming from behind and beating the Chiefs 22-21.
And Andy Reid magic.
Yeah.
And I really didn't even think even he could blow this one. I really didn't.
Well, he proved you wrong.
He did. You set the bar lower and he just finds a way under it, even at his girth. Unbelievable. It's just like you can't even steamroll Tennessee with all your offensive weapons just with your eyes closed. Like he should have been able to like look towards the stands, turn his back on the field and call the game. And they should have been able to win that game. Like, remember how Pittsburgh beat them like 40-17 on that Thursday night game or whatever it was? They should have been able to win something like that. And I'm not saying Tennessee's not good and they don't play hard, but I mean, come on, yeah.
Well, when you're up, they were up at least 3 scores, correct?
18 points. Yeah. 2 touchdowns
then,
and a field goal.
You have the rushing champion in the regular season, and you don't run the ball in the second half nearly enough, and you basically give the Titans a chance to come back. I mean, granted, Travis Kelce got hurt, but that's at the end of the day, it's not an excuse because we've seen other teams have a weapon on the offense get hurt, just Carson Wentz as an example, and they still found a way to finish and win the game.
Just run the stupid ball.
Yeah.
I mean, like that year that the Colts came all the way back. What was that? Luck's rookie year, right? Like that year, if they just ran, if they knelt the ball instead of throwing it, the Colts literally would not have had enough time to come back and win that game. There just would not have been enough time. And that's the frustrating thing about Andy Reid. It's like not like so much who does what as just call the right play.
Mm-hmm.
Just call the play. Just call a running play.
Yeah. Lance wants to know do we think Alex Smith will be back in Kansas City?
No.
Yeah, I think it's moved. And this is the thing that makes me laugh. Because I saw on a lot of other boards and Facebook groups that some Chiefs fans thought they would get a second-round pick for Alex Smith. I about fell on the floor laughing.
Well, hold on a second now. You never know. And I don't mean that to say that I think he's worthy of one. But that doesn't mean that it won't happen. Because the hunger for a quarterback, Joey, you know how that is. You know how that hunger is. See, this is like I keep looking over at Denver. And
but they would never move him to Denver, their arch rival.
I don't know nowadays anymore if that really applies. I really don't know. Depending on what's offered back, I just don't know.
There's some places I could see him going. You will get a kick out of this one, Adam. Dean tells me that they're having the Titans and the Chargers play each other in in London, the game that London didn't, not one fan wanted.
Titans Chargers. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, Lance, if they would trade him to Denver with the whole like that's my rival and but maybe you're right that doesn't really matter in the league anymore.
I think that's becoming less important, especially when I look at I know they're gonna make a big move at QB, and I just don't think Elway's gonna make Cousins the highest paid quarterback in football to get him. And that's what you're gonna have to, whoever goes after Cousins is gonna have to do that. You realize that, right?
Right, but there might be other options we're not thinking of or think that could be possible right now.
Well, that's always there could be something we're not thinking of. But I mean, I could tell you this pretty with some degree of certainty.
Yeah, they're not going to overpay.
It's not going to be Eli Manning. It's not going to be Kirk Cousins, and I really think that they've gotten a look at him. Now I know that there are a lot of people within the organization and the team that really like Kirk Cousins. I'm talking about people in Denver, like even Von Miller kind of made like this public appeal.
Yeah.
Hey, I like this guy. Let's go get him. But yeah, in the end, Von Miller, they're just going to tell him, shut up and sack the quarterback, But yeah, I mean, it's an intriguing scenario, but it wouldn't surprise because. And the other thing, too, now keep in mind, is that comparison isn't quite as wide as you might think because they're only 4 years apart in age as well. So if you're thinking like, right, so if you're thinking like, oh, no, Smith is too old, they want to go and get somebody that's going to be, Smith's 33, Cousins is 29.
So and there's no guarantee in the draft because look what they did with Paxton Lynch, and he looks like a fucking disaster.
See, now that's the other thing too is depending on that's another reason why I think they don't go Cousins is because they have, I believe, the 5th pick.
Mm-hmm.
And there are four talked about quarterbacks right now. And I can almost guarantee you those 4 quarterbacks are not going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Some other position is going to go in the top 4.
Yeah, you're talking about the kid from UCLA,
Wyoming.
Yeah, the kid from USC. That's 5 because I'm thinking the kid from USC, the kid from Louisville, and then the kid from Oklahoma.
Yeah, you could say 5, but
I know what you're saying.
But yeah, so what I'm basically saying is one of those guys is going to be there at their pick. So why pay the living crap out of Cousins when you could moderately pay somebody like Alex Smith? Because I'm thinking like you could get away with paying Alex Smith maybe like, I don't know, 13, 15 million.
You'll get a kick out of this. Lance says, thank you, Denver, for drafting Paxton Lynch. Otherwise, I'm sure Dallas would have drafted him and they would have never got Dak.
Well, that's a good point. I mean, they did get Lynch off the table for somebody else to screw up with, because he does have that, big, tall, big wingspan, big arm kind of, goofy thought process that a lot of teams fall in love with for some ridiculous reason.
No, I agree with you. I'm just curious to see what's going to happen getting back to this game with the Chiefs because it's all because I've read different things from people in Kansas City and they're calling for Andy Reid's head.
Everybody gets tired of it.
Oh, don't even remind me. Like watching some of those games give me like night terrors, like from all the years we had it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, sure. It was like a recurring nightmare because it was kind of almost like the same thing.
It was the same thing over and over again. And it's amazing to me that this guy has been in the league as long as he has and has never learned to adapt on the fly. And I don't want to sound like I'm bashing the guy because I'm not. But it's at some point, everyone has flaws, and you gotta try and fix them, but it's like he almost does the same exact thing over and over again.
That's true. That's true.
And it's just, you're like, ugh.
The funny thing,
God. And you weren't even an Eagles fan, and you were sick of it.
Okay, because it was like the local coverage, and it was just like, I can't deal with this. This is insane.
Yeah.
And the fact that, like, and it's funny because he does create, like, sort of these interesting nuances to the running game, but then he doesn't use them in situations where they would just be perfect.
I agree.
To win games and put games away. It's mind-bending. It's just like, I don't understand it.
I agree with you 100%. All right. Next, we have Atlanta going on the road and beating the LA Rams 26-13.
Yeah, I wasn't really too surprised.
Me neither. I guess NBC sure was, because they were telling us all about the greatness of Sean McVay all fucking night.
Yeah, and the age jokes, and yeah, just on and on about Gurley and Goff and getting the two receivers from Buffalo. What a great move that was.
It's like they were trying so hard to, like, convince everyone, yeah, they're gonna win, they're gonna win.
They were marketing them awfully hard, and maybe it's just because they were
the big,
such
exciting thing, because they were a big bounce back team, but they looked disinterested in that game.
To me they look nervous.
Yeah.
A lot of drop passes, a lot of miscues, and that poor kid Pharaoh Cooper. I mean, I think I would have after the second mishap, I think I would have taken him aside and said, "Look, man, we love you, but we got to get past this game. We get past this game."
Because if you keep him in there, it's almost where you might kill that kid's psyche.
Maybe, but I just kind of felt like after the first couple, it was just kind of like like the kid doesn't have it tonight. Like, what are you going to do?
Yeah, I agree with you.
I guess they thought the game was close enough that one big kick return would turn things around, but you have Tavon Austin on that roster, and he barely got used all night.
That's weird.
Must be in somebody's doghouse.
But either way, it was Ryan and them with their playoff experience kind of grinding out a win.
Their ability to play the clock managing game, to play the anti-Andy Reid type of game planning, is something that makes them a lot different than last year's team. So I don't know if they're going to get far enough to do anything with it. I have them getting to the Final Four. I've actually got them losing to Minnesota in the NFC Championship, but I think that's definitely a wrinkle that they didn't have last year. That paired with their pass rush and their really exceptional secondary play as of late. And Matt Ryan is still an exceptional playoff quarterback. People tend to forget that because of the Super Bowl meltdown and some other bad moments he's had.
This was my issue with him, is you didn't know this year what Matt Ryan you were going to get. Were you going to get MVP Matt Ryan, or were you going to get, as I call him, doofy Matt Ryan?
I have to differ with. I almost have to disagree with you a little bit. More often than not, I was pretty sure I was going to get dopey Matt Ryan.
That's what I'm saying.
Like, I always pretty sure, like, this is just the season. The season just seemed like a lost cause. It just seemed like he had something hanging over his soul from what. But then the last couple weeks, they had a chance to sneak in and get in. And for what it's worth, I don't want to make too much or too little about it, but those last couple weeks, they played extremely well. And
it'll be interesting. I'll give you that.
Yeah, we shall see.
All right, let's see here. We'll move on to Sunday's games. We have Jacksonville winning a defensive battle against the Bills at home 10-3.
I really like the low scoring defensive component of this game and like the hard hitting component and all that stuff. But I have to say that both passing games were really weak. And you could attribute some of that to pass rush and coverage and stuff like that. But both quarterbacks, and I know Bortles made the plays that enabled them to win the game. Sometimes you have to live with that. But Bortles, and they were saying it was windy and everything, Joey, but he made some bad throws. And then there were some open throws where he just decided, screw it, I'm not going to throw it. I'm just going to run.
And he had more running yards than he had passing yards.
Well, you remember at some point early in the second half, I said to you, this SOB is going to end up with more running yards than passing.
Yep. And
he did by like one.
Something like that. But it was a fun game. But the scary thing was Tyrod Taylor getting hurt late in that game.
Yeah. Nothing malicious or egregious about it.
No. It was just, part of the game.
Yeah. And then Peterman, it was kind of a sad sort of a bipolar little series of events for Peterman. He scrambles for the first down, that 4th and 3. Next play, boom, interception.
Yeah, like they're like, oh, he's gonna be the savior pick.
But we all know that Peterman can throw interceptions in very short periods of time.
And it was just funny because certain Bills fans were like, oh, they're gonna do it, pick.
Yeah, the Peterman magic. Oh God. Well, at the rate that you throw 5 interceptions in a half, you have to expect something to go wrong quickly.
No, I agree with you. It was bad. It was really bad.
Yeah, but the passing game was not pretty, is all I'm saying. It was a fun game. It was a physical game, at times a nasty game, and it was dramatic. But to just see quarterbacks just like missing throws and literally passing up throws and tucking
I enjoyed it just because it reminded me of an old, like 90s, defensive game.
To me, it reminded me of a game of Super Tecmo Bowl between two teams. Like, okay, the 1992 version of Super Tecmo Bowl for regular Nintendo. Both teams have no fast players. Like, who were two? Like the Colts from that game and maybe like the Seahawks. There's nobody fast on either team. And like all the guys were like in poor condition, like about to be injured. So everybody was just slow and nobody could like get more than 2 yards on a running play. And it was just like this horrible, mucky, slow forever game. And you just knew if somebody somehow got one touchdown, that team was going to win it. And that's just what it reminded me of, like two of the crappiest teams on Super Tecmo Bowl going head to head.
That's funny.
And well, you and I like jokingly said first team to 10 wins. You remember that? And that's pretty much what it turned out to be. So, yeah, I mean, Jacksonville will have to do much, much better than that, I think, to go beyond that first round.
I agree with you. All right. And last but certainly not least, the Saints hang on and beat Carolina 31-26.
I guess kind of the story of this game was kind of how, for me, was how the Saints overcame the fact that their running game really got shut down pretty effectively. Especially Kamara. Kamara got handled pretty well. And overall, their running game really didn't do anything, but neither did Carolina's.
No, it really was kind of mucky in that aspect. And Drew Brees, for those that thought he was, washed up, showed that he could still get it done when he needed to.
And see, although I'm very much aware of his age right now, this is why, like, if I'm a Saints fan in particular, there's just no way I'm dealing Drew Brees right now for, like, I don't know, like, what people think they're going to get for, I guess, like, I don't know, top tier picks or something, but
right,
there's
because
just
he's a free agent at the end of the year.
right. So, like, what I'm saying is, I'm going to work something out with Drew Brees. I'm going to try to keep him. I'm saying 2 more years. And I know quarterbacks can drop off a cliff very quickly, but I just, maybe I'm making a mistake if I'm doing that, if I'm the talent assessor for the New Orleans Saints, but if I'm that guy, Drew Brees looks like he's got 4 or 5, talking about like what they're talking with Brady. That seems like a little bit too much, but I think I would swear Drew Brees has 2 more years in him.
Have to see.
I would sign him for 2 more years because what are you going to get? What are you going to develop into? What are you going to develop that quickly in 2 years? It's going to replace Drew
Unless
Brees.
they wanted to throw Cousins in there.
Yeah, it's always possible.
But I completely agree with what you're saying, because they have no one in the wings.
And you can still draft one of these 5 or 6 guys and have them holding the clipboard, watching, learning, talking,
No, it's absolutely true. And then with Carolina, they just came up, a little bit short at the end of it. Basically, a bad intentional grounding killed that drive for them to take the lead.
Yeah, I didn't like that call. I thought that was unnecessary. I thought it was probably borderline. It looked like he pretty much.
I know. My whole issue is, like, I understand you have to make the call, but I think in that moment, unless it's like, and me and Lance talked about this, it's super egregious, you don't call it.
Yeah, because, it's already an incomplete pass and a loss of down. And it's kind of like one of those things where he was like right on it looked to me like he was right on the borderline of the edge of the tackle box. So, I think, Cam Newton never seems to get the benefit of the doubt in these situations. And
my God, did he get murdered on that one play?
Yeah.
Because you were sitting there laughing about it. I think he actually had a concussion, and they kind of semi-cleared him, and then he went back in the game. I think he was legitimately fucked up.
Well, see, I don't know, because now they're all saying it's all his eye. It's his eye. It was his eye the whole time. And the only reason he ran and then fell back down to his knees is because the coaches were telling him that so that they could get the stoppage.
So I don't know. Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's all very convoluted now because what I'm hearing now is that it was completely just his eye. Something scratched his eye or poked his eye, and
well, it looked like that cleat kicked him in the eye, like incidentally.
It did look like a foot got him in the eye. And then when he ran over there, it really did look like he jogged over there and then kind of collapsed. But then it kind of was revealed that the coaching staff was telling him, no, go down, go down. So he kind of dropped down. And I don't know. It's one of those things where, like, you're manipulating the rules a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering if they're not going to take a look at the rules for, injury stoppages and concussion protocols and stuff. Because whatever the reason is, once the guy does that, you have to have the protocol or you have to change the rule.
Yeah, I agree with you.
From where I'm sitting, but like you and I said, Joey, like when you turn your engines on that late in the game, everything has to go your way. You can't afford one miscue, one bad call, one mistake. And they just turned it on a little bit too late.
I agree with you. It was a fun way to end the wild card weekend.
Yes, always good when the weekend ends with a really great game.
No, I agree with you. Instead of a laugh or All right, here. I'm pulling up the divisional round games as we speak, and we're gonna go through them quickly with our thoughts and all that stuff. Let's see here. All right, we have Atlanta heading to Philadelphia as the opening game this weekend.
Take note, you guys, of the huge disparity in quarterback playoff experience in all of these games this weekend. This is actually the smallest disparity, 9-1. Matt Ryan, Nick Foles. But I really don't think the Eagles have fully recovered from the loss of Wentz. And I know that actually the weather is the one thing that I'm keeping an eye on that could throw.
It's supposed to change Wentz. Because for those that aren't aware, in the New York, New Jersey, Philadelphia area, it's going to be really warm towards the beginning of the day. But by the time this game starts, it's going to get very windy and very cold.
So there's like a bizarre cold front, like literally like a 35-degree drop in temperature happening.
Yeah, it's going to be like 40 bizarre. And windy when the game starts, and like below freezing by the fourth quarter.
Yeah, so it's really going to get crazy. So that has my eyebrows raised a little bit, but overall, I see Atlanta coming out of this one with the win.
Yeah, I'm not going to sound like a homer and say I'm taking Philly, but I'm taking them for reasons I'd mentioned to you, which I'll say is number one, to my knowledge, Atlanta has never won a playoff game in Philadelphia. Number two, Ryan, to my knowledge, has never played well in Philadelphia, which is the city he was, went to high school in and all that stuff. He's from like the suburbs, I believe. And actually the Eagles defense plays much better at home than they do on the road.
Yeah.
And honestly, I've told other people this. It all boils down to if the Eagles can hold Atlanta to under 20 points, they will win this game because Atlanta has not won a game yet this season where they have not scored 20 points.
Well, they better get a pass rush.
Yeah, that's what it boils down to.
Yeah, well, 9 sacks in 6 games. Yeah, 9 sacks in the last 6 games. That's not going to do it.
No, not at all. I completely agree with you. All right.
But there are there are a lot of variables that could happen in this game, and that's why it's going to be such a fun game.
No, I agree with you.
Yeah.
All right. Next, we have the Titans traveling up to the frozen tundra. At least it was last weekend. Of New England.
Yeah, this is actually obviously the most gargantuan quarterback experience disparity. Tom Brady, I think 34-1 over Marcus Mariota in playoff.
Well, and Andy Reid gift wrapped it for him.
Yeah, so yeah, I gave him that one, but yeah, just interesting what a big playoff experience disparity there is in this whole weekend. It's interesting, but I just, if Tennessee stays within a certain framework, they could keep this game reasonably close. But defensively,
I'll say maybe a half. Not to cut you off, they'll keep it close.
No, it's
but
okay.
Eventually, the evil empire will pull away.
Yeah, see, defensively, their whole thing is zone blitzing, and Brady's just a blitz annihilator. If you blitz him, he murders you, and so it's going to get ugly. A matter of when.
I agree with you. All right, next we have Jacksonville traveling to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, this is a 20-1 disparity in playoff starts. Obviously, 20 for Ben, 1 for Bortles. And I know we're going to differ on this pick, pretty tremendously. A lot having to do with we put different stock in what happened during the regular season. For my money, this is a game that Blake Bortles is going to have to make plays in the passing game to accomplish something offensively. And I just frankly don't see that happening, despite the fact that they do have an excellent pass rush and they do have their first two secondary guys are very good. Too many weapons for Pittsburgh. So I see Pittsburgh probably winning this game by about 10 or 12 points.
I've been kind of leaning back and forth on this one because the Jacksonville really walloped them earlier in the year, and Lance makes a good point, and that's how I feel about this game. To me, it all boils down to if Ben does dumb things with the ball, if he loses fumbles, throws interceptions, does those types of things, Jacksonville is going to win this game.
Yeah.
But if he plays a clean game, more likely than not, they're going to win.
Yep.
That's honestly how I see it going. But real quick, before we go to the last game, Lance said, if this is just, what if Tennessee somehow found a way to beat New England in their house, would that be like the biggest playoff upset ever?
In recent memory, I would have to say, yeah.
I would say the only one that sticks out in my mind that would be bigger was, and it's not really, I guess you would call it an upset, like that big, but the one when the Jets went up there with Mark Sanchez and beat them.
That was pretty big.
It was the one when I think they went to Pittsburgh the next week and got their ass kicked.
Yeah. That was pretty big. It
was either that or Denver.
Yeah. I don't.
That's the one that sticks out in my mind.
Yeah, that was pretty surprising. But I don't really think that I can't think of any in the recent era, any playoff upsets that would be as shocking as that, because now, like, New England is on they're so much even more established than they would have been when Sanchez beat them, and you have this huge disparity in playoff experience, 34 playoff games to 1. I mean, that's just insane.
Yeah, I agree.
I would have to think that statistic alone, that would probably it would be, because nobody's played as many playoff games as Brady. So no, yeah, that it would be the biggest playoff upset ever, because you've never seen a disparity like that in playoff experience with the quarterback. So I think that alone would make it totally unique.
I agree with you. All right, and last and certainly not least, the Saints travel to Minnesota.
It's going to be a good one. But I do have the Vikings making it to the big one.
And I think I'm taking Minnesota as well, because, like they say, defense wins championships. And they now have an all-worldly defense. And until someone can prove to me that they can, go up and down the field and beat them, then I'm taking them.
And hey, until somebody, we keep talking about Keenum, and this is the game. This is the one game where the guy with less, Keenum, no playoff starts, Drew Brees 12. This is the one where where a lot of people are taking the guy with no playoff experience. Keenum, you have to be fair to him and say, until somebody really does get to him and rattle him, we keep talking about it, but until it really happens, he converts these third downs. He gets the ball to Thielen and Diggs and Rudolph and McKinney. Spreads. He always makes the right decision. He makes the right throw. He does not throw stupid passes.
No, I agree with you.
And if he keeps playing like that, that defense is. So I envision it's going to be kind of like within a field goal, and then at the end, Minnesota's going to get that big turnover, big Harrison Smith interception, and they'll put it away.
Yeah,
so yeah, I like Minnesota as well. I like Minnesota.
All right. Now, before we get out of here, don't forget to follow us on our social media pages. Check them out over at facebook.com/American Sports Connection, or on Twitter at ASC Pods, Pods. You can find us on Instagram at American Sports Connection. If you're not listening live on YouTube, you can find us at youtube.com/EaglesFan0683, and you can find our entire library of stuff on the B Plus Player Radio. Best way to find it is on Twitter at B Plus Radio. So on that note, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, give it a thumbs up, all that good stuff, and we'll see you back next week. Have a good night, everybody.